Okay, so we're back for the second video on simplifying complex fractions, and on this method 2, we are going to find the LCD of all the fractions. And so this one's pretty simple because I have just x squared or x, and so my LCD is simply x squared. Okay, so I multiply every single fraction by x squared. And that's going to eliminate all my denominators so that I'm just left with one fraction instead of a complex fraction. X squared goes into x squared one time, and then I take 1 times 2. And then x goes into x squared, and I'm left with an x, right? I took one of the x's, I'm left with the other x. And I take x times 1. In the denominator, x squared goes into x squared one time, so I'm left with a 4. And then x into x squared leaves me with an x, so that's going to be 4 minus x. And there's nothing else to factor here, so it does not simplify, and that means it is as simple as it's going to get. So we're done with that one. On the next one, the only denominators I have are x, so my LCD is simply x. And then I'm going to multiply all my terms times x. Now you can't leave anything out, even if it wasn't a fraction in the first place. Okay, there we go. So then we're going to go from here. I just realized, my pug is in the other room snoring, so if you should hear that, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but I'm just thinking, boy, that would be weird. Okay, so multiply each of your terms, and that's x times 2, so that's 2x. X goes into x one time. I'm going to just multiply the 1 by 1. That will make in the denominator a 4x squared, and then it's going to be minus 1. So 4x squared minus 1 is a difference of squares, or a difference of two squares, and it factors as 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. Need my line to be a little longer there. And then I can remove 2x plus 1 because I'm dividing, and that equals a 1. So I still have a numerator. Don't ever cancel out your numerator and just get rid of it, right? You will always at least have a 1 there, if not some other terms. All right, so that's it. It's usually just when it's a 1 when sometimes students decide to just leave that off. But 2x minus 1 is definitely not the same as 1 divided by 2x minus 1. Just kind of think about that. Okay, so on this next fraction, we have these two denominators. I'm going to write it out here so we can talk about it. This one is sometimes confusing for students on what is my LCD. Well, you need to factor, so on the x squared plus xy, that's going to be x times x plus y. And then this is x times x. So on the technique that I've been teaching you on finding your LCD, if I circle this one and look at the other one, I can say, are there any factors there that I didn't circle? And the answer is yes. There would be another x because I only circled an x times the x plus y. So my LCD in this case is going to be x squared times x plus y. And factoring the x squared plus xy is important in this case to be able to determine your common denominator. All right, so now we're going to multiply everything. I'm going to rewrite this first in factored form because it will make more sense this way. At least in the numerator. So now I multiply times x squared times x plus y times x squared times x plus y. Now remember, when you're multiplying by this is the same as writing x squared times x plus y over 1. And that's why I can say this divides into it and then remove anything that equals 1. So at this point then, I'm going to remove anything that equals 1. So x plus y goes into x plus y one time. X goes into x squared, and that leaves me with an x. So my numerator, I'm just going to go sideways on this, is going to be 7xy. And then my denominator is going to be y squared over x plus y. Wait a minute, that's not right. Hello. It's y squared times that. Y squared times x plus y. Sometimes you just, even I've been doing this forever and I have a brain problem there. All right, so then I check to see, is there anything I can simplify from here? And I can, because I have a y in common. So if I take out the y that's in the numerator, divide it into the y in the denominator, I'm left with a y. And my answer then is 7x over y times x plus y. And that's as much as that simplifies. So several steps there, you know, because you had to really factor some just to figure out your LCD and then go from there. Okay, next. All right, so we've already had one similar to this, and we can see that the LCD is x squared. Okay, so we multiply every term by x squared. Oh, I'm trying to write this out. Okay, so x squared goes in one time, so we're left with a 5, right? 5 times 1. X goes into x squared, we're left with an x, so that's going to be 5 minus 2x. In my denominator, x goes into x squared, and then I have an x there, so that's x plus 2x squared. Now on this one, you probably want to factor just to be on the safe side and be sure that you can't simplify anything, but you can see that we can't factor the numerator. It's going to just stay 5 minus 2x. I'm going to go ahead and factor the x out of the denominator, so that's going to leave me with 1 plus 2x, or you could write that as 2x plus 1. It means the same thing, but we can't simplify that any further. Okay, one more question here. All right, so for this one, I'm going to go over to the side again with these denominators. X squared minus 9 is a difference of squares, so x minus 3 times x plus 3. Remember, the order doesn't matter there. And my other denominator was x minus 3. So you can see that this is going to be my LCD, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write this out again. I'll write that the opposite way with the plus and minus, so you can see it doesn't matter. Now remember, x minus 3 times x plus 3 is x squared minus 9, right? Okay. You could write it either way, but usually it's better to work these out in factored form to keep you from making mistakes. So you can see the entire denominator is going to be eliminated. And then I just am left with an x minus 2 in the numerator. And then on this, I have to multiply both terms by the x plus 3 times x minus 3. And on this one, I'm just multiplying by 1. Well, I already know that that is going to be x squared minus 9. And then on this one, I remove the x minus 3, and I'm left with 1 times x plus 3. So that's going to be plus, don't forget this plus x plus 3. And I went ahead and multiplied it back out because I knew that this was going to end up being a trinomial that we would need to factor. So x minus 2, and then this is x squared plus 1x minus 6. And that trinomial factors. So we're going to do one more step on factoring. So we're going to find a sum or a product of -6 that has a sum of 1. And that's going to be a plus 3 and a minus 2. Right, and that's going to give me the x squared plus x minus 6 if I checked that and multiplied. So we see that we can remove the x minus 2, because that equals 1, and we end up finally with 1 over x plus 3. All right, so that was my last example of these. Very important that you can come up with your common denominator in order to work your way through this. And so be sure and practice this a lot.